So I recently ran across this book called The Five Types of Wealth, and I wanted to just share a few thoughts from this book. Of course, being in the mortgage industry, dealing with homes and people's finances, we find ourselves akin to people's wealth. But this gives a framework, and there's of course lots of frameworks out there in the world about how to look at life. But I really liked the framework they give, and they talk about five different types of wealth. And so there are your time, social, mental, physical, and then financial. And again, I think as people, especially as Americans, we tend to focus on and give so much weight to financial wealth. But that's probably by far, as we go through these, the least important of the different types of wealth. So it starts with time wealth, something we maybe not think about. In fact, we applaud people that are super busy, but when you have spare time, extra time to pursue hobbies, things you're interested in, or to give to others, having time wealth, extra time can be so valuable and absolutely underappreciated, probably the most underappreciated of these different areas. And then it moves into social wealth, your friends, your family, your spouse, and the relationships you have that give really so much meaning to your life. And being socially wealthy, I think, is critical. And that probably ties into mental wealth. There's so much struggle that's talked about today around anxiety and depression and just the struggles around all of that that can leave us unhappy in our lives. And so if you find yourself happy, satisfied, at peace, full of joy, that can lead to a mental wealth. And there's so many resources out there that can help you today, from podcasts and books to seeing a therapist. By the way, my mom is a marriage and family therapist and has been for 35 or 40 years. And then my daughter actually is a therapist here in the Nashville area with Concord Family Counseling. So certainly our family is a big believer in mental wealth. And then physical wealth, which to me, maybe if I was to prioritize and order these, I would probably put physical health as first, because if you don't have your physical health, again, so often neglected in the pursuit of financial wealth, and yet your physical health is so critical to your life just actually working. You cannot function. I remember years ago, I had my back go out and ended up in the hospital for 3 days. Let me say, my life absolutely stopped for a couple weeks. I could focus on nothing else except for my physical well-being and trying to deal with a back issue. So we all know how important that is. And yet, again, so neglected oftentimes our physical health and wealth. So again, this is covering these five types of wealth. And I don't, the book doesn't necessarily do this, but I would certainly prioritize physical, then social, then mental, then time, and then financial wealth last. I think, in my opinion, you do not need, a large sum of money or a fancy car or a fancy house to be happy, fulfilled, at peace, full of joy, full of love in your life. But these are just the five types of wealth that they've identified. And I think it's a great way of thinking about life, and something, if you don't slow down, even if it's right now, just for a moment, we don't have a lot of time to be quiet and just think about these different areas and how we need to prioritize our time and give them to different areas of our life, not just for our financial wealth, but for all these other areas. All right, take care. Bye-bye.